guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to learn how to make the dress that you've seen at the beginning of the video. It's made of the shell stitch, and it also has this ribbed effect in the middle of the shells. For the back side, it's a total back coverage, and then for this design I'll be explaining it for 3 sizes: extra small to small, medium to large, and extra large to 2XL. And yeah, it's a made to measure design. You'll also need to know your waistline circumference, your bust circumference, your hip circumference, and the length of the dress that you want to make for yourself. So the most amazing thing about this pattern is you can decide whether to make it a top, whether a crop top or a full coverage top, or you can even go ahead and make it into a full dress, whether maxi, mini, or midi. That will be totally up to you. So within this video, you'll be learning how to make all those, and you can decide for yourself which approach that you're taking in order to make whatever piece that you want to make for yourself. And I used this beautiful peach color. For the yarn, I used milk cotton yarn, and I used approximately 10 balls, which is a total of 1,500 yards. And then I also used a 3.5mm crochet hook, as you can see here. And then you'll also need a measuring tape and a darning needle. If you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops, and I'll be leaving a link behind in case you want one. So let's get started. Alright, so you're going to get your 3.5mm crochet hook and your yarn, and you're going to start off with a slip knot, and you're going to make a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So after your 6 chains, you're going to go into the very first chain that you made with a slip stitch. So you insert your hook and pull through all. This will create a small ring. Then you're going to make a chain of 3, which counts as a double crochet. And you're going to make double crochets into this ring. I'll be recommending a number of double crochets to place in here. I'm demonstrating for a size medium to large. So for me, I'm going to place a total of 9 double crochets into the ring. And for all the other sizes, just check on the screen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that means I have a total of 10 double crochets, considering the first chain 3 as a double crochet. Now for all the other sizes, you're going to check on the screen and see the total number of stitches that you'll be having after row 1. We're going on to row 2. You're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work, and then into the very first stitch. Alright, so into the very first stitch, you're going to place 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. And then into the next stitch, you're going to place a front post double crochet. And then into the next stitch, you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into the same stitch, and then a front post double crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into the next stitch, and then a front post double crochet into the next. Alright, so into the second last stitch you will place 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, and then into the last stitch on top of the chain 3 you're going to place a double crochet to end your row 2. So at this point your work is going to look different depending on the size that you're making for. So for size extra small, you're going to have a total of 4 shells. For medium large, which I'm demonstrating right now, you're going to have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shells separated by front post double crochets. And then for size extra large 2XL, you're going to have a total of 6 shells separated by front post double crochets. This is going to change the width of the bra cup depending on the size that you're making for. Alright, now for example, this will be the cup for extra small. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 lanes of shells. And then this will be the cup for medium large. And then for XL, 2XL, you'll have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 6th lane of shells. But you can see the difference between the extra small and the medium large. This one is wider and stretches out and is even wider at the base as compared to the extra small. As you can see here, you can see the difference in size. Now for the extra large 2XL, it will be around here. It will be 1 lane of shells bigger than this one. So that's the difference between the cups for the different sizes. All right, so we are going on to row 3 and you're going to make a chain of 3. I've switched hooks, but it's still the same exact size. You're going to go into the chain 1 space of the first shell and you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. And then you're going to skip over the next 2 stitches and place a back post double crochet into the previous front post double crochet from the previous row. And then into the next chain 1 space of the next shell, you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. And then a back post double crochet into the previous front post double crochet of the previous row. Just like that. So you're going to go ahead and repeat that all the way across. So you're going to do that until you place 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the last chain 1 space of the last shell of the previous row. So just like that, you're going to go on top of the chain 3 at the end of the row and you're going to place a double crochet there. So this is what your work will look like on the right side. The right side is where we have these ridges popping out. That will be the right side of your work. And then at the back side, we won't have those separations or splits in between the shells. So we're going on to row 4. You're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. All right, now we are at row 4 and we've chained 3 at the beginning. Now you're going to go into the stitch before the chain one space and place a double crochet, and then into the chain one space you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 more double crochets, and then in the stitch after the chain one space you're going to go in there with a double crochet. So we've literally increased our shell from 2 chain 1 2 to 3 chain 1 3, and then you're going to place a front post double crochet into the next front post double crochet, and then into the stitch before the chain one space of the next shell you're going to place a double crochet. In the chain one space you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 more double crochets into the same chain one space, 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So that means we've created 3 chain 1 3, and then a front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, and then you're going to repeat that all the way across. So I am currently placing my last shell of the row, and then you're going to skip over the next stitch and place a double crochet on top of the chain 3 at the end of the previous row. So this will mark the end of row 4. Row 5 you're going to make a chain of 3, which counts as our very first double crochet, and turn your work. You're going to go into the chain 1 space of the first shell and you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 1 and 3 more double crochets into the same chain 1 space. And then in the standalone double crochet, the fact that we are working on the back side, we're going to go in there with a back post double crochet so that the ridge can stay on the same side. And then into the chain 1 space of the next shell you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 1 and 3 more double crochets, and then a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, because we are working on the back side of the work of our piece. So you're going to repeat that all the way across, 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 more double crochets into the chain 1 space of the previous shell, and a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet. So after placing a shell into the last chain 1 space, you're going to skip over the last 3 stitches and place a double crochet on top of the chain 3 of the last row of the previous row. So this is row 5 and it's worked on the wrong side. Row 6 we are going to do something different. You're going to make a chain of 3, which counts as a double crochet, and then you're going to turn your work. This time around we are going to increase the 3 stitches on each side of the chain 1 space to 4 stitches. So to do that you're going to go into the first stitch actually the stitch before the chain one space of the shell, with a double crochet, and into the chain one space you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain one, and 3 more double crochets into the chain one space, and then into the stitch after the chain one space, which is this one, you're going to go in there with 1 double crochet. That way we've created 4 stitches on either side of the chain one space of the shell, and then front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, because we are working on the right side of our work for row 6. So you're going to go onto the next shell and you're going to repeat the same exact process. The stitch before the chain one space gets a double crochet, and then in the chain one space you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain one, and 3 more double crochets, and then a double crochet into the next stitch to balance the 4 stitches on this side onto this side, and then a front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, and you're going to repeat this all the way across. Alright, so this is what row 6 will look like. We have 4 stitches on either side of the chain one space of the shell, and then for rows 7 and 8 we are going to repeat the same exact process, but keep in mind, keep track of where you are, either on the back side of your work where you place the back post double crochets in the standalone double crochets, or the front side of the work where you place front post double crochets in the standalone double crochets. So I'm starting row 7, you just make a chain of 3 and turn your work, and then you go in the stitch before the chain one space and place a double crochet, and then you will place 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 3 more double crochets into the chain one space, and then a double crochet into the next stitch, just like that. So we have 4 stitches on either side, and then you're going to go into the standalone double crochet with a back post, since row 7 is worked on the wrong side of the work. So you're going to keep repeating this all the way across, and also work your row 8, which will be on the right side of your work, making sure that you have 4 stitches on either side of the chain one space for each and every shell, and then I'll meet you back at row 9. Alright, so we are now going on to row 9, and this is going to be a bit different. We are going a bit wider, and this is the row that you're going to keep repeating until you get the length of the breakup that you want. So you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work, and then you're going to go into the stitch before the chain one space of the shell, and you're going to place 2 double crochets this time. So 2 double crochets, and then in the chain one space you're going to place a total of 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 3 more double crochets, and then in the stitch after the chain one space you're going to place 2 double crochets to balance the 5 double crochets that you have on this side of the shell. So this time we have 5, chain 1, and 5, and then in the standalone double crochet you're going to place a back post double crochet, because we are on the wrong side of the work, and you're going to repeat that all the way across. 2 double crochets in the stitch before the chain one space, and then into the chain one space you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 3 more double crochets, And then in the next stitch, you're going to place 2 double crochets to balance the 5 double crochets on the opposite side of the chain 1 space. So repeat that, back post double crochet, repeat that all the way across until the end of the row. Alright, so we're done with row 9, and this is the row that we're going to keep repeating. So depending on which side that you're on, that will determine whether you place a front post or a back post double crochet in the standalone double crochets. But we are just going to repeat the procedure for row 9 until we get the length of the breakup that we want. For me, I'm going to go ahead and make a total of 11 rows, but you can make as many as you want or as little as you want, depending on the length of the breakup. Just make sure this is at the base of your breast and it covers all the way up to where you want this the top of the breakup to sit. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and make a total of 11 rows, and this is row 10. I'll do one more row after this one, and then I'll be back to show you what I have. Alright, so I've done a total of 11 rows, and for the measurement, I have about 6 inches for the length of the breakup, and then the width is about 10 inches, as you can see here. Now you're going to go ahead and make an identical breakup to this one, and then I'll meet you back to show you what to do next. Alright guys, now that we are done with our breakups, look how beautiful these two look like. Now we are going to go onto the middle section, and we're going to kind of create that the shell pattern in the middle, but this time around the shells are going to be facing down because our main aim is now to build towards the base of the dress. So we're going to get our yarn and our hook, make a slip knot, and we're going to turn our work. Make sure that your breakups look like this, and we're going to count to the 3rd row. So our first row is this one, 2, and then 3, and after the 3rd space, into that spot where the shell attaches onto the edge, we're going to attach our yarn, pull through that loop. You're going to attach and then make a chain of 1, and then count the same exact spaces, 1, 2, 3, and into that space where the shell attaches onto the edge, you're going to go into that space and create a slip stitch. So just like that, we have joined the 2 breakups together. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next space 2 times. So this will bring us to the top where the next shell attaches onto the boundary. You're going to go into that space and attach using a slip stitch, and then you're going to turn your work and go into the chain that you placed in between the 2 breakups. You're going to place 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 more double crochet into the same exact chain, and then you're going to skip over this space and into that spot where this shell attaches onto the edge of the breakup, you're going to place a slip stitch. So we've just placed a V-stitch, as you can see here. Now we're going to go into the next space and place 2 slip stitches, and then into the spot where the shell attaches onto the boundary of the cup, you're going to place a slip stitch as well, turn your work, and into the chain one space you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into the same exact space. And then from here you're going to skip over the next space, and into the space where the shell attaches onto the boundary you're going to place a slip stitch. So this is what you'll have. And now we're going to go on to row 3. You're going to slip stitch twice into the space, and then where the shell attaches onto the edge you're going to place a slip stitch and then make a chain of 1, turn your work, and in between the break up and the 2 double crochets you're going to go in there with 1 double crochet, and then into the chain 1 space you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, just like that, and then skip over the next 2 double crochets and into the next space, which is in between the break up and the 2 double crochets you're going to place a double crochet there, and then make a chain of 1, skip over the next space, and then slip stitch where the shell attaches onto the boundary of the break up. This is what you have. And then we're going to slip stitch 2 times into the space, and then once into that spot where the shell attaches onto the edge of the break up. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work into the chain 1 space, which is here before this standalone double crochet. You're going to go in there with 2 double crochets, and then you're going to front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet because we are on the right side right now. And then you're going to go into the chain 2 space of the next shell with 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, just like that. And then you're going to skip over the next 2 double crochets and place a front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, and then go into the chain 1 space with 2 double crochets, chain 1, and skip over the next space on the break up and slip stitch where the shell attaches onto the edge of the break up. This is what you'll have. And then you're going to slip stitch 2 times into the next space, and then slip stitch where the shell attaches onto the boundary of the cup, chain 1, turn your work. This is row 5. And then into the chain 1 space you're going to go in there with 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into the same space, and then skip over the next 2 double crochets and place a back post double crochet into the next stitch. The stitch that received a front post in the previous row will get a back post here because we are on the wrong side of our project. And then into the chain 2 space of the next shell you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And then you're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets and place a back post double crochet into the next stitch, and then skip over the next 2 double crochets, and into the chain 1 space you're going to go in there with 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. And then you're going to make a chain of 1, skip over the next space, and where the shell attaches onto the boundary, you're going to place a slip stitch. So you can see what we are trying to create. We're trying to bring back the shell pattern, but while creating increases so that we don't distort the construction of our dress. So let's go on to row 6. You're going to slip stitch twice into the next space, and then slip stitch at that point where the shell attaches onto the edge. Then make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Now you're going to look back at row 3. Row 3 of the middle section. You can see what we did. We just placed 1 double crochet at this point. So you're going to go ahead and place only 1 double crochet here. We don't want the increase to be so drastic. So after your 1 double crochet here, just look back and see what you did for the next. You placed 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into the next shell. So we have a shell here. You're going to go ahead and place 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. And once you get done with this part, you're going to skip over the next 2 double crochets and place a front post double crochet, and then go into the shell here, into the next chain 2 space of the next shell, and place a shell, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Okay, so you see what we have right now. And then you're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets and place a front post double crochet into the next front post, and then skip over the next 2 double crochets and mirror exactly what you have at the beginning of the row. So in the chain 1 space, you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the same exact chain 1 space. And then from here, you're going to skip over the next 2 double crochets and place a double crochet in the chain 1 space. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and skip over the next space and slip stitch on top or into the spot where the shell attaches onto the boundary of the bra cup. So our main aim is to literally bring this space onto the same level as the bra cups, and I think we've managed to achieve that, but also making sure that your front post double crochets of the middle section are on the same side as the front post double crochets of the bra cups. So I think at this point I am satisfied with the level at which I have brought my mid section. I don't think I'm going to go any further than this. Now, if you wish to do that, when it comes to the beginning and the end of the rows, you're going to reference back. Now, let me say for row 6, we referenced to row 3. Now that means for row 7, you reference to row 4. Row 8, you reference to row 5. That is if your bra cups are longer than what we have right now. But basically, that's what we are going to follow. And then at this point, when you have almost a straight line at the base, you're going to just chain 1 and cut your yarn. And then pull through. Now, let's see what we have. This is what we have. And we're going to go ahead and create some extensions towards the sides as well in order to bring them down to this level. And then we shall go ahead and continue building our dress. All right, now when it comes to the side panels, remember I mentioned that I'll be explaining from size extra small to 2XL. That's what I know how to explain. So you are going to make a slip knot These are the pieces that are going to go towards the side here to also cover up the rib cage towards the back of the dress. Now you're going to start off with a slip knot and you're going to make a chain. For me, that is going to be a chain of 27, but for all the other sizes, I'll be putting on the screen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. So this is the chain that's going to go towards the side, as you can see here. Now, in case you're a larger size and you want to give it a try, this multiple should be a multiple of 6 plus 3 chains. So for me, that is a multiple of 6, which is 24, plus 3 chains, which is 27. So you're going to go into the 6th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Into the 6th, you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that 6th chain. Okay, and then skip over 2 chains and double crochet into the next. Skip 2 chains, place a shell into the next. That is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Skip over 2 chains, double crochet into the next. And you're going to repeat that all the way across. You're going to repeat until you have a total of 3 chains left on your row. So this is what we have, and for reference purposes, for size extra small, small, you'll have a total of 3 shells. Medium large, you'll have a total of 4 shells, as you can see here. And then extra large 2XL, you'll have a total of 5 shells. And then you're going to skip over the next 2 chains and place a double crochet into the last chain, just like that. So this piece is going to be placed upside down along what we already have, both on this side and on this side. So from here, you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. Place a shell into the chain 2 space of the first shell, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And then place a front post double crochet into the next standalone double crochet, and then a shell into the chain 2 space of the next shell. A front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet in between the shells, a shell into the chain 2 space of the next shell. So that's what we are going to repeat until you place a shell into the chain 2 space of the last shell of your row, just like that. Front post, and now I'm placing a shell into the chain 2 space of the last shell of my row. which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and then on top of the chain, after skipping the 3 double crochets, you're going to place a double crochet. So just like that, we are done with row 2. Should have something that looks like this. You're going to repeat row 2 for as long as your piece is straight here. So I'm going to repeat row 2 one more time, and then I start creating increases. So chain 3, a shell into the chain 2 space of the first shell, and then remember now for row 3, every front post double crochet of the previous row will get a back post double crochet, so that we keep the ridges in line on one side of our piece. Then a shell into the chain 2 space of the next shell, and then a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet. Okay, so you're going to keep working this until you place a shell into the chain 2 space of the last shell of the row. All right, so this is what we have. And then skip over the last 3 double crochets and place a double crochet on top of the chain 3. So this is what you'll have. All right, now I wanted to show you what that looks like. We're going to attach these rows at these points into the rows. Sorry, actually this is the side with the front post double crochets. So along those rows, row 1 will attach to the very final row of the backup, and then row 2 will attach here, and then row 3 will attach here. And you can see after row 3 your piece starts to slant, so we're going to start creating increases in order to follow that slanting line, just like we did on the middle section of our piece. So for row 4, you're going to make a chain of 5, and we're going to be increasing on only one side. So chain 5 and go into the same exact first stitch with a double crochet, and then you're going to go into the next shell, or the chain 2 space of the shell, and you're going to place a shell, and everything else remains the same. So place a shell, and then front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet because we are on the right side, and then a shell into the next shell, front post, a shell into the next shell, and then a front post double crochet, and then a shell into the last shell, and then a double crochet on top of the last chain 3. So we're keeping one side flat, but we are increasing one side. So this piece is going to be on this side of our top. So you can see the front posts running down. And then now we're going on to the next row, which is row 5. You're going to make a chain of 3 and then a shell into the first shell. So remember, on this side we don't change anything, on one of the sides of the panel, and then a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, a shell into the next shell. So all the changes happen on one side of the panel, as you'll see later on. Then a back post double crochet, and then a shell into the next shell, a back post because we are on the wrong side of our piece, then a shell into the last shell. So when you're done placing a shell into the last shell, into the V-stitch that we just created here, that little space, you're going to go in there with a total of sorry, my yarn is splitting. Let me first correct that. So you're going to go into that last space with a total of 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as you can see, this is the side that has the increases, and you'll see the piece starting to increase on one side, as you can see here. So once you place your 5 double crochets here, you're going to go onto row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Row 6, you're going to make a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn your work, and into that same exact space you're going to go in with a double crochet, and then you're going to skip over 3 stitches and front post double crochet into the next stitch, just like that. And then you're going to go into the next shell with a shell, and since we're on the right side, we are placing a front post double crochet in the standalone double crochet, a shell into the next shell, a front post double crochet into the next standalone double crochet. Look what we have, guys. You can see how it's spreading out. A shell into the next shell, front post, and then a shell into the last shell. Skip over the last 3 double crochets and double crochet on top of the chain 3 to wind up your row 6. Now we're going to go on to row 7. You're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. Remember, this row is starting from this side that doesn't create an increase. So you just go into the chain two space of the first shell and place a shell. And then a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet because we are on the back side. And then a shell into the next shell. And then a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet. You're going to repeat that until you place a shell into the last shell of the row, and then I show you how to wind up on the side of increasing. All right, so to wind up row 7, after placing a shell into the last shell of the row, you're going to place a back post double crochet into the standalone double crochet, and then into the last space that we created here, into the V stitch, you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 4 more double crochets into the same space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that marks the end of row 7. Row 8, you are going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. And then you're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets and place a shell into the chain 2 space of the first shell. And just like that, we're going to go all the way across, placing 1 front post because we are on the right side of our work, and then a shell into the next shell. So make it all the way across, ending with a double crochet on top of the chain 3. All right, so we've made it to the end of row 8, and this is what you should have. You should be able to see the increased side very clearly. Now, row 9, you're going to start off with a chain of 3 and turn your work, place a shell into the very first shell, and then you're going to place a back post into the standalone double crochet because we are working on the wrong side of our piece, and we are going to make it all the way across until you place a shell into the last shell of the row, and I'll show you how to wind up row 9. All right, so we're coming to the end of row 9 after placing a shell into the last shell, the chain 2 space of the last shell of the row. You're going to go on top of the chain 3 and place a double crochet. Just like that, we are done with row 9. Now, we're just going to repeat rows 4 to 9. It's a 6-row repeat. If you've actually, for reference purposes, this is where we are at right now. We're going to attach row to row, and if you feel like you still need more rows, it's a repeat of rows 4 to 9 until you get to a point where we are aligning our work or creating a straight line at the base of our piece, as you can see here. Now I feel like this is just enough to get to that point, but I think I'm going to do one more row that will bring me to that point, because now I have a total of 9 rows. And if I'm to count from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, maybe I'm going to do one more row to attach onto this part. And that row is going to just resemble row 4, because I've told you it's a repeat from row 4 until row 9. So let me do one more row, and for me that will be a row that resembles row 4. So keep working. In case your backups are longer, then it's a repeat of 6 rows from row 4 to row 9 until you get to that point where this piece is straight, in a straight line with what we already have. So I hope my instructions are clear. I'm trying my best to explain this so that you get it right and be able to recreate this piece. And the moment I get done with this row, I'm going to just align my work so that the front post double crochets are on the right side of the work, and I'll be using my darning needle to attach this area here, the slanting area, along the slanting area of the backup, so that we have something that looks like this. Look how beautiful this piece looks like. Oh good. Let me go ahead and finish up my last row, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. All right, so I'm done with row 10, which is the last row of my piece. I'm going to make a chain of 1 and cut my yarn, pull through, and this is going to be attached here. Now we're going to go ahead and make a second piece that's supposed to come to this side, but I don't want to waste your precious time trying to explain everything all over again. The difference this time is, now for your second piece, you're going to repeat the same exact instructions. The only difference is wherever I say front post double crochet, you're going to place a back post double crochet for your second piece that's supposed to go to this side. So wherever I say front post double crochet here, just do a back post, and wherever I say back post, just do a front post. That is the difference that we are going to make for the second panel. Let me just go ahead and work mine, and then I'll show you what the difference is. This time, when you turn your work onto the side of the front posts, the slanting edge is going to be on this side, and this side will remain flat. So let me just go ahead and work mine, and then I'll be back on camera to show you what everything looks like. All right guys, if you followed the instructions to the T and you place your work on the side that has the front post double crochets, this is what you're going to have. You can see one of the panels slants to this side, and then one of them slants to the opposite side. So place your work like this, your middle section of the dress, place it like this, and then the one that slants to this side, when the front post double crochets are on this side, you're going to place it like this. So you can see that. And then the one that slants to the opposite side, you place it along this side like this. So this should be perfectly fitted onto your piece. If I'm to zoom out, sorry for the distractions, but I hope you can see the clear picture. The slant should be along the backup, as you can see it here. So I had mentioned that I'll be joining using a darning needle, but I think I've changed my mind and I'll be joining using a crochet hook. So I'm going to get my yarn and my hook, And we're going to start from row 1 of the backup into row 1 of the side panel. Just like that, we're going to just place 2 single crochets into each and every row until the side panel is finished. So 1 and 2, and then you go on to the next row, 1 and 2, next row, 1 and 2. So we're just placing 2 single crochets in each and every row. Sorry, 1 and 2, next row, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the last row, 1 and 2. So the moment you're done with that, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, and you will repeat this same exact process on the opposite side. So you can see I'm making that joining on the wrong side of the work. You can see that where we don't have the bump. So you're going to place your second panel like this and then join it the same exact way you've done this one. Okay, so all right guys, let's see what we have. Let's see what we have right now. So this is what we have, and your shells should be facing down. Your shells of the side panels should be facing down. Now the next thing that we're going to do is work across the whole panel all the way from this side to this side, creating the shell stitch. So to do that, you're going to attach your yarn on any end. Actually, my row 1 should be on the right side, so I'm going to attach my yarn in this corner and I'm going to work across the whole piece. So you're going to make a chain of 3 and then a shell into the very first shell. And then a front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet because we are on the right side, as you can see here. So I'm going to repeat that until I place a shell in this last shell here, and then I'll show you how to go about this area here. Alright guys, when you get to this point, I've just placed a shell into the last shell here, and into the next stitch you're going to place a front post double crochet. We want to create some kind of pattern that looks exactly the same all the way across. So you're going to find the most suitable place to go into with a shell, and for me this is this row of the breakup. I'm going to make 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that row. So what I'm trying to do is to go across placing one shell and a front post, one shell and a front post. But then this time we don't have a front post double crochet here, but we have this ridge here. I'm going to go into it somewhere, into a stitch here, and place a front post double crochet. All right, so when it comes to this part, you're going to just make sure you continue with the pattern. Just place a shell and then a double crochet. Skip a few stitches or spaces and then place a double crochet. Just make sure your stitches are evenly placed so that you don't kind of create a funny scene. So as you can see here, I have this, and then we have this area here. So I'll just go into this with a front post, and then that means I've joined to the middle section. And then into this chain 2 space I will just place my shell, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Just like that. And then front post double crochet into the next front post, a shell into the next shell. So right now we are in the middle section of the dress, and it's somehow already predetermined. We know exactly where to place what in the middle section of the dress. So after this, a front post. So here we were just placing, actually we placed front posts, but if you don't have where to place a front post double crochet, you can just place a double crochet, and then the pattern will blend in on the next row. So then into the chain 2 space you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, and then a front post double crochet. Just find where to place it. I'll place mine here, and then you're going to look back and see exactly what you've done on this side and duplicate what you've done on this breakup. Do the same on this one. So we are just going ahead to move all the way across with a shell and then a front post double crochet. Okay, let me see what we have next. All right, so we've officially crossed over to the last part of our dress. So you're going to make sure that the number of shells that you've done across this breakup, leave alone the middle section and the side, we only have 2 shells under the breakup. You're going to make sure you have the same exact number of shells under the second breakup. If you have 3 here, make sure you have 3 here as well, just to balance our dress perfectly well. We don't want to have more shells on one side of the dress. So we are on the home stretch right now, continuing to place a shell into the next shell. and then a front post double crochet into the next front post. So you're going to repeat that all the way across, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Alright guys, we've come to the end of the row, and I'm placing my last double crochet on top of that double crochet at the end of the previous row. So this is what we have. Now we're going on to row 2, and that is going to be worked on the wrong side of our work. If I'm to zoom out, this is exactly what we have. It's getting dark outside, but I hope you can see this is the side that has the front post double crochets, and this is the right side of our work. So let's get back. We are on row 2. For row 2, working across the whole piece, you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. Right now everything is in place, and we are just placing a shell into the chain 2 space of the next shell. We're not creating any increases or decreases. We are just going all the way across with a shell into the chain 2 space of the next shell, and then a back post double crochet because we are on the wrong side of our work, and then a shell in the chain 2 space of the next shell, and then a back post double crochet into the next standalone double crochet. So that's all that we are going to do all the way across our piece. And I'll meet you back at the end of the row. That's all that you're going to do all the way across to the opposite side up to here, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Sorry, we are not working in rounds, we are working rows right now till further notice. Alright, so we're done with row 2, and I am ending with a double crochet into the top of the chain 3 at the end of the previous row. This is what your row will look like. Now we're going on to row 3, and row 3 is worked on the right side of your work, so you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work, and this time round it's a shell in each chain 2 space of the previous shell. Remember, a shell is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, and then a front post double crochet in the next standalone double crochet to create that ridge that keeps running all the way down the dress. So we're going to continue that, a shell in the next chain 2 space of the next shell, and then a front post double crochet in the standalone double crochet, and you're going to repeat that all the way across until the end of the row, where you will place a double crochet on top of the chain 3 at the end of the previous row. So we're basically going to repeat rows 2 and 3 again and again until we get to our waistline. So we're going to keep growing this panel until we are at our waistline level. I'll be letting you know how many rows that I'll end up doing to get to that point, but for now I'm just going to push, repeating rows 2 and 3 until I get to the waistline. So if you want, keep trying on your dress so that you don't get past that point. The upper waistline is what I'm talking about. And then I'll show you what to do next. All right, guys, here we are. I did a few rows in order to get to my waistline level, and I did a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 rows, and you should make sure that you end on a row that's worked on the side with the ridges or the front post double crochets. So I am on row 9 right now, and we're going to get our measuring tape. We're going to measure across the base of our piece. So as you can see here, I have about 22 inches without stretching. But then when stretched, I can go to about 26. Don't overstretch your work. Actually, if I just lay it flat like this, I have about 23. But this piece can also go to the waistline circumference that I am considering. This is because my yarn is quite stretchy, and I'm going to just slip stitch into the double crochet on the opposite side. So you're going to bring back your measuring tape just to be sure that this can wrap around your waistline. Remember, the waistline circumference I am considering is 26, 27. So this should be able to stretch to 13.5, which is okay. It even goes beyond, but I don't want this piece to fit when so stretched. So I'm considering slight stretches. So thank God my yarn is a bit stretchy and forgiving. All right, so after you slip stitch, you are going to make a chain of 3, which will count as our very first double crochet, and then you're going to turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. This is round 1, and then you're going to place a shell into the chain 2 space of the first shell, and then 1 back post double crochet into the next standalone double crochet. And we're going to do that all the way around. So round 1 is basically the same exact instructions. The only difference is we've joined in the round shell and then back post because we are working on the wrong side of our work. So let me go all the way around, and then I'll come back and show you what to do in order to create increases to create the hip coverage of our dress. All right, so we've made it all the way around and we are through with round 1. After your last shell here, you're going to go into the top of the first chain 3 and make a slip stitch. So this is what your row will look like. Now you're going to place your work flat like this, and you're going to get 2 stitch markers. I have mine here. We are going to mark the side shells of our dress. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for me, I'm going to mark this one. Just make sure you balance your work. And this one. And that's the line along which I am going to be creating my increases. Mark 2 side shells of your piece, and that's where we are going to start creating increases in order to accommodate our hip circumference. At this point we are at the waistline level, remember, but this cannot fit around the hips, otherwise your piece will be fully stretched out and it will lose its beauty. So at these 2 points that I have marked, I feel like these are a bit at the front. Maybe I should put them towards the back. Okay, let me just leave them at this point. Now I'm going to go on to round 2. For round 2, after your slip stitch here, you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. And round 2, we are working on the right side of our work. So a shell into the next shell. And then a front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet. And you're going to repeat that until you get to this shell that has the stitch marker, where we shall do something totally different in order to create an increase at that point. All right, so we've reached that point. We've reached the stitch with the stitch marker, the shell with the stitch marker. You're going to remove your hook, your stitch marker, sorry, and into that stitch or the chain 2 space that had the stitch marker, you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. So that way we are going to create an increase at this point. So we have kind of created a fan stitch at this point. And then just place your stitch marker maybe in the middle double crochet of the 3 middle double crochets of the fan stitch. Just place your stitch marker there and then go ahead and keep working your normal pattern. Front post, a shell into the next shell, until you get to the shell with the next stitch marker on the opposite side, where you will do the same exact thing that we've done at this point. Alright, so I've reached the shell with the next stitch marker, the second stitch marker, and into the chain 2 space I am going to place 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into the same chain 2 space. and then I'll mark the middle stitch. So this is what we have at this point, and then you're going to just wind up your round normally, going into each shell with a shell and then a front post in each standalone double crochet. Alright, so we've just placed a shell into the last shell, and I will slip stitch on top of the first chain 3 of the round to wind up round 2. Okay, so we are done with round 2. Round 3, you are going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. And then you're going to go into the first shell with a shell, and then back post double crochet in the next standalone double crochet, because we are working on the wrong side of our piece, and then a shell into the next shell. So you're going to repeat this until you get to that fan stitch that you created on one side of the dress, one of the increase points of our dress. So I'm placing a shell in the shell before that increase point. And now the increase point is here. You can see the fan stitch at this point. So you're going to remove your stitch marker. And after this shell, you're going to go into the next standalone double crochet with a back post, double crochet, and then you're going to go into this chain 2 space, the first chain 2 space of the fan stitch, with 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And just like that, we've created a shell in the first chain 2 space. And then you're going to go in the middle of the 3 double crochets in this stitch, the middle stitch, and you're going to place a double crochet there. We shall see its use later on. Skip the next double crochet, and into the chain 2 space, you're going to go in there with a shell, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Okay. So this is what we have. All right, so after this shell, you're going to make a chain of 2 and then go into the next chain 2 space of the fan stitch and place a shell, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And just like that, we are done with this part, and we are going to replace our stitch marker into this chain 2 space, because it's at that point where we shall create our next increase. So from here you're going to go into the next standalone double crochet with a back post double crochet, and then a shell into the chain two space of the next shell, and you're going to repeat this until you get to your next stitch marker, where you will do the same exact thing that we've done on this side. So you should see your dress starting to spread out, especially on this side where we've worked at least 2 rows. You should see your dress starting to create coverage for the hips. At least it's not like this, so it's now starting to spread out in order to create room for the hip coverage. All right, so I've reached the next fan stitch on the second point of increase. So after my back post, I'm going to go into the chain two space of the fan stitch with a shell, and then make a chain of 2, and into the second chain two space of the fan stitch, which is this one, you're also going to go in there with a shell. And then you're going to mark that chain two space in between the 2 shells with a stitch marker, and then go all the way across to finish up your round. Remember, this is round 3, and it's worked on the wrong side of our work. So that's why we are placing back post double crochets. So I'm placing a shell into the chain two space of the last shell of round 3. And then I'll slip stitch on top of the chain 3 at the beginning of the round to wind up this round. Round 3 is finished. So lay your work flat, and you should be able to see these increases playing their role in order to create hip coverage. Now we're going on to round 4, and for round 4 you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work just like we've been doing for the previous rows or rounds. And we're going to place a shell into the first shell. And now that we are working on the right side of our work for round 4, we are now going to place a front post double crochet into the standalone double crochet. So front post, and then a shell into the next shell. So you're going to repeat this until you get to the chain two space with the stitch marker. All right, so you're going to place a front post here, and then into the chain two space of this shell, you're going to place a shell. Just like that. And then we have a stitch marker in this chain two space. So you're going to remove it. And then you're going to skip over the next two stitches and then introduce a front post double crochet into the third stitch. So we don't want to lose our front posts. And then into the chain two space, you're going to place a shell. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Just like that. And then you're going to mark the chain 2 space of that new shell that you just introduced. And into the next stitch, you're going to place a front post double crochet. Skip over the next 2 stitches, and into the next chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And just like that, we've made it past this increase point. And then you're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets and make a front post double crochet. So look what we have right now. You can see how our work is spreading out. And then we are also not losing track of the pattern. That's why we have introduced this front post at this point and at this point, so that they can keep running down our dress. So you're going to go all the way across to the next stitch marker, where you will do the same exact thing that you've done at this point. I'll meet you back at this point so that I show you what to do, because it may get a little bit confusing, but I'll guide you through this point. I've reached this area where we are supposed to introduce a new shell. So after your front post here, you're going to go into the chain two space of the next shell and place a shell. And then skip over, first remove this stitch marker. So just like that, you're going to skip over the next 2 stitches, and into the third stitch, you're going to introduce a front post double crochet there. And then into the chain 2 space that had the stitch marker, you're going to place a shell. And then into the next stitch, you're going to place a front post double crochet. And then skip the next 2 stitches, and in the chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell. All right, so we are going to place our stitch marker into the chain 2 space of the shell that we just introduced. That one there. All right, so when you get past this, you're going to just continue with your pattern without creating any more increases and finish up this round, which is round 4. All right, this is me placing my very last shell into the chain 2 space of the last shell of my round. and then you will slip stitch on top of the first chain 3 of the round to finish round 4. As you can see here, this was round 1, round 2, round 3, and round 4. All right guys, after round 4, this is what your work will look like. Look at that. You can see the spread out of our dress. And now we're going to get our measuring tape and take a measurement at the base of our dress when slightly stretching it. So I have a total of about 16.5 to 17 inches, but the hip circumference that I am considering is 40 inches. So you're going to get your hip circumference divided by 2. So 40 divided by 2 is 20, and that is my intended measurement at the base of my piece when I slightly stretch it. So you can see I'm about 16.5 to 17 inches, but I have to go to about 20 inches. Now we are going to repeat rounds 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 until we get that measurement, half of our hip circumference at the base of our piece. I believe for me, I'm going to repeat that sequence one more time so that I get to row 7, and then I'll take another measurement to show you whether I have achieved half of my hip circumference for my piece. If I have, then at that point you will stop increasing, remove your stitch markers, and just go down to lengthen your dress to whatever length that you choose to make. So repeat rounds 2 to 4 until the base of your piece measures half of your hip circumference when slightly stretched. All right guys, now for round 5, we are not going to do any increases. We're just going to go all the way around, and we are going to just put the stitch marker into the new round. So as you can see here, round 5 is on the wrong side, and I have reached that stitch or the shell with the stitch marker. You're going to remove it, and then you're going to just go into the chain 2 space with a shell. You're not going to increase at round 5. Round 5 is just a plain round, and then you're going to replace your stitch marker into the chain 2 space of the new shell along the same line where we were increasing. So as you can see here, so round 5, no increases at all. You just make a chain of 3 turn and work your pattern as usual. All right, so we're coming to the end of round 5, and I am placing a slip stitch on top of the chain 3 at the beginning of the round. This is what we have. And now we are going to repeat rounds 2 to 5 until the base of our piece measures half of our hip circumference. So you're going to get your measuring tape. All right guys, after repeating rounds 2 to 5 one more time, this is what I have. And let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see the shaping of this dress. I'm not holding anything in the waist. This is exactly what we have. We have increased to create more room to accommodate the hip circumference. So at this point, if I'm to take a measurement at the base of my piece, I have approximately 18 inches, 18 to 19 inches without stretching. And then when I stretch it slightly, it goes to 20 inches. And at this point, I'm going to stop increasing. So I had to come back here to show you the level at which I am, and also to let you know now from this point onwards, you're going to just work your way all the way down. We are no longer spreading out or increasing the sides of the dress. We're now going to just work downwards, maintain the number of shells. If possible, count the number of shells that you have at this round, and then just keep that number constant until you get the length of the dress that you want. The shaping on the side looks exactly like this. It looks very beautiful, very professional, very planned for. You can see this, and then that's the same exact thing that we have here. So you can see how the pattern has blended in so well, and now we are at that point where everything looks the same. So you're going to just keep working around and around and around. Just keep in mind that the round that's worked on the wrong side, you place back post double crochets in the standalone double crochets, and then the round that's worked on the right side of your work, you place front post double crochets in the standalone double crochets. And that's basically it. I'm going to keep working until I get the length of the dress that I want, and then later on I'll come back and show you how to finish up the top part of the dress. All right, so when it comes to the straps, you're going to identify the shell that's right beside the middle shell on the side of the armpit. So this is my middle shell. Remember, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of shells for our bra cups. So this is the middle one, the third one, so towards the armpit. And we are going to attach our yarn in the third stitch, the third double crochet before the chain to space of the shell. And we're going to make a chain of 3, go into the chain to space with 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into the chain to space. I don't know if it was a chain 1, but just into the chain space, make sure you place 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and then skip over the next 2 stitches, and into the next you're going to place a double crochet there. So these are the straps, and you're going to chain 3, turn your work into the chain to space of the previous shell. You're going to place a shell, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And then you're going to go on top of the last chain 3 of the previous row and place a double crochet there. Chain 3, turn your work, and you're going to repeat row 2. So you'll start seeing your strap growing. This is what your strap will look like. You can see the pattern of the strap is blending in well with the body of our piece. So you're going to make as many rows as you wish. For me, I'm going to go for 10 rows, but for the larger sizes, consider 12 rows. But this will also depend on the stretch of your yarn. You can do 8 rows or 10 rows or 12 rows, depending on the fitting that you're going for. Just try it on so that you can figure out the number of rows that you need for your size. So let me go ahead and do my number of rows that I need, and then I'll show you what to do next. All right, so I've ended up with a total of 18 rows, and this measures about 10 inches without stretching, but when stretched, it can go to about 12 inches. Now, once you get the length of the strap that you need for your piece, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail for attaching on the back side of the dress. So just pull through, and then you're going to turn your work onto the back side, and you're going to locate where you want to attach your strap. For me, this is going to be along the line of the 3rd shell. So I have 1, 2, 3 along the 3rd one. That's where I want to attach my strap, or even the 4th, but I want to leave space between this one and the armpit area, so I will attach here along the 3rd line of the shell stitch at the back of the dress. So get your darning needle, and you're going to find a way of attaching your strap onto the back of the dress using your darning needle. Okay, so you can see I've placed it along that line of the third line of the shell on this side. So after this, you're going to just find a way of weaving in this tail in and out of a few stitches so that you can secure it. And then you can cut off the excess yarn. So let's see what our strap looks like at the front of our piece. This is what it looks like. I'll weave this tail in later on, but this is what the strap looks like. Alright guys, after a first strap, you're going to try on your dress and make sure the number of rows is convenient for you to continue to make your second strap. Otherwise, you don't want to repeat both straps. And then another thing that I want to mention, if you try on your dress and you feel like this is uncomfortable for you, you can decide to attach your strap into the middle shell of the bra-cup instead of this one beside the middle shell. So that's really going to be a personal choice. But for me, this one works very well for me. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same exact instructions for my second strap, just like I did for the first. So I'm going to locate the middle shell and then the one beside it towards the armpit. And then attach my yarn into the 3rd stitch away from the chain space, chain 3, and then into the chain space, I'm going to place a shell. And then I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and then into the next stitch I'm going to place a double crochet. So just like that, I'm done with row 1 of my strap. I'm going to go ahead and keep working my strap the same exact way that I did this one, and then also attach it to the back. Another thing that I'm going to make sure I do is to close up this gap. This is totally optional. If you want it open, leave it like this, but for me, I'm going to close it up so that we don't have this kind of opening in the middle of the bust. I'm going to close it up, and I'll be showing you the moment I'm done with the second strap. All right, so to close up the middle gap, you're going to get your yarn, and then you're going to turn your work onto the wrong side like this. And then I'm going to start attaching from the base where I have the opening. I'm going to attach my yarn there, and then in each and every row I'm going to just go in there with 2 single crochets. So what we are trying to do here is to close up that middle opening, and then into the next row you're going to place 2 single crochets, and then into the next row 2 single crochets, and into the first double crochet of the shell you're going to place a single crochet there, make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. That way we've closed up that opening that was kind of uncomfortable in the middle of our piece, and this is now what we have. This is much more presentable in my opinion, but do you do what you have to do in order to get your desired fitting or your desired look for your piece. And then I'll weave these in later on. For now, we've closed up that uncomfortable gap, and I'm going to just go back to my strap and make sure I have the same exact number of rows as I did for the first one. And then I join it to the back, and I'll be showing you what I have after that. After closing up this gap as well, I'll be showing you the fitting of this piece. Alright guys, after both your straps, this is what your work will look like. I'll be inserting some images that I have taken when the straps are finished, as well as the closure of the middle section of this part. So this is what we have for now. You can even leave this piece at this point if you want to make a top. You can make it cropped, you can make it long to sit on your pair of jeans or shorts or skirt, or you can even go ahead and lengthen your piece and make it into a full dress. It can even be a maxi dress, a midi dress, or a mini dress. That's really up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and keep building mine, and we shall see the final look of our piece. Alright guys, now when it comes to the back of our dress, you're going to try on your dress, and if you happen to find that this can entirely close even when you're wearing it, then we're going to go ahead and close up this back area. We're going to remove these stitch markers and turn our work onto the back side, and we're going to close up that opening to create a tube-like structure. So turn your work onto the back side. If you happen to dress up and then this doesn't completely meet, then you're going to use a long strap that you're going to lace up in those holes. You lace it up very well, and then you can be able to adjust the back opening of the dress. But if this happens to close up when you're wearing it, then you're going to just flip your work onto the back side. Just like this. This is the back side of our work, where we don't have that line. You see that line? That's the right side. Now on the side where we don't have that line, we are going to go ahead and close it up using a single crochet stitch, just like we did for the middle section where we had an opening. So you're going to attach your yarn in the very first row that opens up, and then place 2 single crochets in each and every row. Two single crochets in each and every row all the way up. And I think this has happened because the yarn that I decided to use for my piece is stretchy. So when on body, it just stretches comfortably well and creates a beautiful fitting. So when you're done attaching into your very last row, I'm placing my 2 single crochets here. Then you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail to weave in. So look what we have right now. Now, in order to know that this will fit, you're going to use your measuring tape. And if you measure across the upper section, you should be able to get half of your bust circumference. So you can see here, if I'm to measure across here, I have up to around 18 inches, which is perfect because the bust circumference that I am considering is around 34. So if this goes to, let me say 17 and beyond, this should be perfectly fine. So you can see that it goes to around 18 inches. And then when it comes to the waist, I'm considering 26, 27. So half of that is around 13. So if you stretch this and it goes beyond 13, 14, that should be fine. And then when it comes to the hip that I'm considering is 40 inches. So this is going up to 18 inches, but when stretched goes beyond 20. So this is a perfect fitting of a dress. And I'm going to just go ahead and weave in all the tails that I have on this piece. And then I'll come back and show you what everything looks like in the end. All right, so after working plain rounds of no increases, this is what the bottom part of the dress is going to look like. I'm going to be attaching some images of the finished piece at the end of the video, but this is what we have. You're going to go ahead and weave in all your tails and your dress will be ready to wear. You can go ahead and place paddings within the bra cups if you wish, but I'm not going to do that. And that's basically it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.